Hi everybody, this is KillRed40 and today I'm going to talk about Donut County. I found Donut County while I was searching the Steam library for something interesting and new, and luckily that's exactly what this is. The game describes itself as a narrative-driven puzzle game, and I would have to agree with that. You play as this hole that roams around the town and sucks up as many things as it possibly can as it progressively gets larger. It's very similar to Katamari Damacy in that way, and I thought that was a really fun idea and I bought it. Another thing that appealed to me was the cel-shaded graphics and the little animal type characters. I really love how they are all animated and I love the way they look. The colors just pop right off the screen and I think that it looks phenomenal. The music is very relaxing and it's like this lo-fi kind of nice beat that feels like a slacker indie album that you'd just be listening to on a hot summer day. It's really enjoyable, but unfortunately that's kind of where the game starts to fall a little short. The description describes this as a narrative-driven game, and I would have to say that that's probably correct, but unfortunately, I thought that the script kind of had some structural issues with it. We'll get more into that later. The dialogue and the characters are all kind of fun and interesting, and I liked a lot of the jokes. A lot of the jokes hit pretty hard, but I thought that the plot in and of itself was kind of bland, and I didn't understand where it was going for the majority of the game. This is a huge issue when your game mainly relies on plot. The gameplay is incredibly simple. You just move the mouse to where you want the hole to go and you suck up whatever can fit into it. Eventually the hole will get bigger and you'll be able to suck up bigger items such as a whole trailer or a big rock. The only critique of the gameplay is that I didn't find any challenge whatsoever, which is sometimes okay, but in this instance I didn't think that there was any kind of fail state within the game. The only thing that you're going to get for a punishment in this game is just sitting at one screen kind of not knowing what to do, but the puzzles are so simple that you're going to be able to find out what to do pretty fast. Luckily, the pace of the game is fast enough that none of this became boring or irritating or anything like that. They kept introducing new ideas to this hole, and it made it a lot of fun. Later, you get some more mechanics that kind of add on to the gameplay, and I thought that they were pretty fun and enough for how long this game is and for the idea. I will say that the best compliment I can give to this game is that I was never bored. There was always something entertaining, but there wasn't much to this game other than entertainment. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, it could be better. I would also like to say that there's a lot of ideas that they could have expanded on that I felt would have made the game a lot better. I suppose it could be argued that this was for a younger audience, but it was kind of weird because some of the humor was definitely geared towards adults. Sometimes they even brought up concepts such as capitalism, which I thought was interesting if it's meant for children that can't understand just basic puzzles. I never once was stuck or trying to figure out the answer to the puzzle throughout this whole entire game, which I think is kind of a problem when making a puzzle game. With all that said, I can't really recommend this game at $15 because it was really short and I just blew through it in a single afternoon. I don't think I will ever play it again either because there's not much replayability here. Now, I will go into spoilers and we're going to talk more in depth with it, so if you want to hear the spoilers, just stay tuned. The game starts you off in Myra's room where she's texting her boss named BK. Her boss is a raccoon that happens to own a donut shop, and she's texting him that she can't come into work today because there's this really annoying mailman outside. BK decides to take care of that mailman by summoning this hole and sucking him into the ground, and that's where our game starts off. The next scene is the entire town and the residents in this giant hole all interrogating BK on why he did what he did. And this is the majority of the story, is going from one villager to the next, kind of learning what they were doing when this hole attacked, you could say. After the first couple levels, I thought that this was okay and it was funny and I enjoyed it, but I think after maybe 4 or 5 different sections, I started to become really bored and I didn't think that the story was that interesting. One thing that I think that they could have fixed in this script was by making it somewhat of a mystery of who's controlling this hole or why did this hole show up to take everybody. I think that would have been a lot more fun and a lot more effective when making a narrative-driven puzzle game. With that said though, a lot of these characters are really fun and really memorable, and I also enjoyed the gameplay segments in this part quite a bit. I liked how they kept switching up the gameplay enough that it kept it interesting so that I would keep playing. Some very memorable moments that I remember is one where you're introduced to this rabbit couple, or at least two people that think they're rabbits, rabbits, and you have to coax these 2 rabbits to get into the hole. Once that happens, a bunch of hearts start floating into the air, and you kind of get the idea of what's going on in there. And a bunch of rabbits just start shooting out of the hole, and I gotta say, that was one of the funniest things I've seen in a video game in a really long time. I was laughing my ass off. I also just really enjoyed the humor overall. One part that I remember is you have to swallow this fire pit, and a bunch of fire starts spewing out of this hole, and you go and burn up this person's trailer, and you burn everything around it. It's incredibly mischievous. Going along with that mischievous feeling is another segment where you have to get fireworks and shoot them at birds. I was so surprised, and I thought it was hilarious every step of the way. One segment that I really enjoyed on a gameplay perspective was the kitchen. I liked this part because you have to make this soup, and you have to put in salt and pepper in the right combination and have this bird eat it. But as you're doing that, cockroaches are trying to get into your hole and contaminate the soup, and you have to dodge them. I thought that was a lot of fun, and it switched up the gameplay in a way that made it so it was still interesting. I also thought that this added some kind of consequence or punishment for doing things incorrectly, which makes a game fun in my opinion. I think that there is a way to make a relaxing game that still has some kind of consequences to it, and this was one example of that. I never felt like I was rushed or really irritated or anything by this game at any point, but I did think that every once in a while it could have added an extra little bit of spice to it just to make it a little bit more entertaining. There were some moments where I was trying to fit certain things into the hole that just weren't working out, and you had to kind of fumble it around. While that wasn't irritating, it did kind of waste a lot of time. I just didn't really enjoy it. As the story progresses, you kind of learn more about BK and what his intentions were. He wanted to get this drone by playing this app game, which is what summons the hole. And you learn that there's like this whole organization of raccoons that are led by the Trash King. Eventually, the villagers all get BK to confront the Trash King so that they can get some help to get out of the hole. And this is where the game got really interesting in my opinion. BK and Myra use this hot air balloon to get out of the hole. They go and confront the Trash King, and in this section it's split up into 3 different parts, and I liked how you could explore this laboratory and see the different ins and outs of this organization that the Trash King has created. And I thought that it made the puzzles a little bit more complicated, so much so that it made it more interesting. I also liked that they used a lot of different parts from different parts of the game to make these puzzles more complicated, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Another thing that just blew my mind when I saw it was they actually have a boss fight where you use this catapult that you had gotten earlier in the game to throw projectiles up at the boss. I also really enjoyed that this boss can cement the hole and make it so that you can't catch anything inside of it, making it so that you can't fight back against him. I thought that it really worked really well, and I thought it was incredibly fun, and I was surprised by how fun it was just to move the mouse around and try to escape from this drone. Eventually, the Trash King surrenders and creates this giant catapult to get all of the villagers back to where they live, and it's a happy ending. It's a very childish story, and it works for what it is, but personally, I just thought that there could have been some structural issues that could have been fixed, and I would have enjoyed it more. I would also like to say that I really applaud the developers for how much they were able to do with this crazy off-the-wall idea. I thought that some of the mechanics were insane, and I never would have been able to come up with any of this stuff. I really think that that's awesome. My only problem is that the game only clocks around 2 hours, and it's like $15. I don't know if it's completely worth that amount. Maybe if this was $5, maybe even $10, I would give it a shot. I would even recommend it, but at the current price, I'm not sure. Get this on sale if you want to try it out. Check it out. I think it is worth a playthrough, even if you might not enjoy it. I think just the overall originality of it is worth seeing. Anyways, this is KillRed40 at the Colors of Gaming, signing out.